Hi, it's Louise at Spiral Bright Insight. I'm here to talk to you about the new moon in Pisces, which is happening at the end of February. Now, if you are new to my channel, I'm a galactic and intuitive astrologer. And what I try to do with the content that I share is bring through some insight with regards to the more traditional astrology, but also weave in some of the galactic and cosmic energies that are also showing up in the chart. So we are working with the new moon in Pisces, and straight away there are some quite striking things to make a note of. So new moon is on the 28th of February for us in the UK and anybody who is ahead of us in terms of time, but it is also going to be on the 27th of February if you are sort of behind GMT. So taking place at 0 or 12:44 a.m. So first sort of thing in the morning on the 28th, the final day of the month. And this is another moon in a series of moons that is at 9 degrees. So 9 degrees, 40 minutes of Pisces. The sun and the moon are meeting at that exact point. Now, we've been talking about this 9 degrees and the number nine for a number of months because this is a series of moons that are all happening at 9 degrees. And of course, when we're working with the new moon energy, we are very much inviting something new in. This is a new seed being sown. Something new is coming into fruition, is being birthed, but we are at the beginning of the cycle, so we can't quite see what it is or what it looks like yet. And we're effectively in the dark of the moon. But because we're working with the number nine, we're in now universal year number nine. We also have the snake energy because the Chinese year of the snake is working with us as a backdrop. So, there is a real focus on endings coming through. And of course, Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. When you get to Pisces, you've made it the whole way round the astrological wheel. You've worked through all the signs of the zodiac. You've got all the experience now almost behind you, and you are getting ready to let go, to release, to complete something in order that you can start the cycle again and move round into Aries. So there is a really, really strong acknowledgement here that in order to bring in the new, we need to let go. And effectively, that is what we are doing all year in 2025 with the energy of the universal year number nine, with the snake energy, and particularly with so much, particularly in the beginning of this year, with so much focus on Pisces. So this is also significant because it is the final new moon before we move into eclipse season. So March is going to be eclipse season for us. We have got two eclipses taking place in March, along with some other quite significant astrological events. So March is big in terms of energy, but this is almost making sure that we have got everything sort of tied up, all our loose ends are sort of dealt with before we move into this what is potentially quite a chaotic time, because eclipses always create sort of sudden unexpected events and bring in energies that are designed to shake us out of where we might have become stuck. So Pisces is the star of the show at this new moon. We have Ceres now at one degrees of Pisces, Moon and Sun at 9 degrees. Saturn has got round to 20 degrees of Pisces. Mercury is in Pisces at 24 degrees. The North Node is now at 27 degrees and Neptune has made it to 28. So a huge focus on this sign. And what exactly does that mean in terms of the energies? Well, Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. It's the 12th sign. It is ruled by Neptune. It is mutable water. So when we're working with Pisces, we are stepping beyond the realm of the tangible, beyond the physical experience, beyond the physical vessel, almost stepping into a world where we are much more in tune with our higher self, with our soul, with sort of the unseen, sort of those realms, those dimensions that you can't necessarily access from a third dimensional perspective. So this is an energy very much of release, of completion, of surrender, of dissolving, of letting go. There's a real sort of sense of melting and dissolving form here. Pisces is formless. Pisces is boundless. It is very hard to create a sense of structure when we have strong Pisces. The energies are very mystical, very fantastical, very imaginative, lots of illusion, lots of creativity, lots of flux, lots of movement. You know, when we are working with Pisces, we are stepping into a state of being at one with all that is. So that is very much in terms of being at one with everybody that we stand alongside. You know, this is very much a focus on unity consciousness, but also at one with a higher being, a higher energy, a higher source. So Pisces requires us to have faith because we can't always see or touch or connect sort of physically with what it is that we are working with, but we have to have the faith that there is so much more that we can see and touch. So, you know, with this new moon, there's a really strong sense of being out to sea. And I've talked about this before, especially with the North Node, Neptune, Saturn, Mercury all here as well. Very much having to just surrender to the cosmic tides, you know, to this ebb and flow, and sort of acknowledging that everything is shifting. There is nothing that we can necessarily really fixate on at this time because we are having to work with this really strong water, with the tides, the cosmic currents. Things are constantly shifting, constantly changing, and it is a case of just having to almost surrender to that and just acknowledge that this is how it is. This is a transit. You know, we are not always going to be in this state, but in particular, with the South Node in Virgo, you know, we are having to let go of the need to make sense of everything, to have a plan, to know what is going on. This is about just letting go. You know, I've talked about this energy a lot of late. You know, it is a time when things are likely to feel very weird. We're having to let go of linear time. We may be experiencing timeline jumps. We may be experiencing glitches in the matrix, things that happen that you just like, actually, did that just happen? You know, that kind of like, you know, it's really hard to make sense of anything. And that is the whole point. We are not meant to make sense of anything at this time, not when we are working with this amazing, beautiful, mystical, sensitive, formless energy. So Pisces is represented by two fishes, and effectively they are swimming against one another. They're going in different directions, but there is a connection between them. So again, with Pisces, you know, there is this understanding that Pisces is the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. We are at this point where we are letting go, we are stepping into this huge void. There's also an acknowledgement, because the fishes are swimming in different directions, that, you know, we have to work with the yin and the yang, with the light and the dark, with the shadow, with opposing forces in order to come into a state of wholeness. And effectively, as we work around the wheel, especially working with the integrating, you know, the opposing energies of each sign, this is effectively what we are trying to get to a state and a sense of wholeness. And Pisces ultimately is the final step in that journey. So we may be feeling confused. There may be even stronger levels of illusion, confusion, deceit at this time if we sort of step into the lower expression of Pisces. But it's also a time to really capture and engage with your ability to visualize what you want to create, particularly with the Pisces new moon. So use your imagination, use your creative skills, you know, really attach to that vision of what it is that you want to bring in, and then trust, almost surrender, hand it over to the universe and just say, right, this is what I need, this is what I want. Please, you know, just get it sorted. And I know that sounds quite easy and quite trite in a way, but this is very much the energy that we are working with. So let's have a look at the chart. And as you can see here, we have got the moon and the sun together at 9 degrees, 40 minutes. So I'm just going to point out a few key themes that are speaking to me in this chart. What is really interesting is that we have the moon and the sun are in a trine to this body, cosmic body up here, which is Atlantis. And Atlantis is at 10 degrees of Scorpio. So starting to slow down, is going to station retrograde in the fairly near future, but is in a trine to the moon and the sun. So there is absolutely a connection here to our Atlantean past. And of course, you know, you can't really disregard the fact that Pisces and this huge grouping of Pisces energy and huge focus of Pisces energy is likely to bring a focus to water. Now, water being very much a connection to our emotional state, very cleansing, very clearing, very transmuting, but also when we have strong water in the chart, it is likely that we may have a lot of water in our physical experience. So there is possibly going to be more water-based events, more flooding, but also a lot more emotion. So there's absolutely some connections to Atlantis past lives, memories perhaps surfacing up that may be connected to floods and trauma that has been experienced in terms of flooding, waves, and things being lost at sea or being lost in the depths. So that is really interesting to note. And obviously with Pisces, this is very karmic as well. So this may be a time when a lot of us are actually healing our karmic connections to Atlantis in some way. Now, at the time of this new moon, Mars has finally stationed direct in Cancer. So we are finally out of Mars retrograde period, which is going to be good news, I think, for most of us, because it has felt like a long old slog. And now Mars can finally move direct through the second half of Cancer and into Leo. We should feel a little bit more motivated and as if things are starting to really get going and get shifting again. Mars is in a trine to Saturn. So this is really beautiful because Saturn is giving this support to Mars. And I do feel with Mars in Cancer that, we are able to call on a much deeper level of emotional intelligence now as we move forward. And Saturn is giving us that extra sort of boost, that extra mastery, that extra kudos in order to do that. Mars is also in a trine to Vesta over in Scorpio. And of course, if we add in Saturn, we've got this beautiful grand water trine flowing between these three bodies. And that for me feels like an opportunity to, again, really harness what we've learnt from Mars retrograde and what we're learning from Saturn being in Pisces in terms of spiritual maturity and spiritual mastery, and really go within using the Scorpio energy to connect with our inner light and our inner flame, and use that almost as a platform or a catalyst to ignite us, to push us forward, but also very much in tune with our emotional awareness and our emotional state, and tuning into how we feel about the progress that we are making. We can also see that Jupiter in Gemini is in a trine to Black Moon Lilith, and this is the true calculation for Black Moon Lilith. So again, there is new understanding perhaps that is helping us to access the hidden parts of ourselves, the more shadow state. And with Black Moon Lilith in an opposition to Venus, again, this feels like there are new gifts and perhaps of a very pioneering in nature because of the Aries signature that are stepping forward that may have been kept hidden in the depths. in the shadows, but they are absolutely starting to come forward. And of course, Venus is also about our self-worth, our value. And in Aries, this is Venus is finally able to put herself first and make sure that, everything that she's doing, that she is taking on actually suits her. So, this, you might consider this to be quite self-centered or selfish, but actually, no, this is really, really empowering. And I'm also drawn to the fact that Salacia is in a very close conjunction with Venus and opposing Black Moon Lilith. Now, Pam Gregory mentioned Salacia in her recent video, and she was talking about, this beautiful energy and the connection that she sees between Salacia and the light codes, about the consciousness that is carried and held within the water, about the connection to light language and to these beautiful sort of more ethereal gifts coming through. And of course, with the proximity to Venus here, it does feel as if there is an opportunity for more information, more downloads to come through, perhaps in the form of light language. So if this is something that you are familiar with, that you've worked with, or that you have been interested in, this is perhaps a time when those gifts are going to come more online. They're going to be strengthened in some way. So that's a really beautiful connection as well. And, with the opposition here to Lilith, this might be something that you have felt maybe ashamed of, or that you have been shamed for in your past, something that you've had to keep hidden, but actually it is getting stronger. The pull, the calling to step into more of you and to embrace these beautiful gifts is becoming louder and much, much harder to ignore. And that's certainly something that I'm finding as my light language is starting to really push through. So that's a really, really beautiful connection. And I'm also really drawn to the fact that the Sphinx here at 26 degrees of Sagittarius is in a square to the nodal axis. So, Pisces is, at the end of the day, also a sign that relates to secrets, to all that is hidden. And with the Sphinx here, that is also another energy that we associate with hidden secrets, hidden riddles, hidden information, that really you need to be able to ask the right questions in order to gain access to the answers that you seek. The Sphinx represents a rite of passage, a journey that may feel challenging, that may feel daunting, but with this square to the nodal axis, it feels as if, we are coming into this time when there is yet more insight, more ancient wisdom ready to be released. And perhaps that is coming up through the trine to Atlantis and the new moon, things coming up from the depths that, are ready to be remembered. And again, with the connection with Salacia, which is very much linked to water, to the oceans, to the great wisdom that is held and carried within the water, right next to Venus. Again, this just feels all very aligned and some really beautiful themes coming through. I also love the fact that, and I'm just going to slightly dip into the galactic astrology now, that Salacia and Venus are in a wider trine to Cancri, which is one of the stars in galactic astrology that we associate with the diamond codes and with diamond light codes and diamond frequency. So again, that ties in really beautifully with the diamond sort of shimmering light that we associate with Salacia, with the light reflected on the water, with the diamond light codes through Cancri. There's a beautiful connection there for sure. So again, this theme of the tides, of the currents, of being out at sea, of the depths of the wisdom that is held within the ocean, of almost stepping into the ocean within us, just feels such a strong part of this new moon energy and its themes. Now, two other notes before we moved on to the galactic astrology. There's a few transits that are worth mentioning, because Neptune is just days away now from coming into the 29 degrees of Pisces, which is the very final degree of the entire zodiac. And that may trigger some sort of crisis. Certainly mass confusion, mass illusion is possible with Neptune at the 29-degree point. And we also have Venus is about to station retrograde on the 2nd of March. So just a couple of days after this new moon, Venus is going to go retrograde and move back into Pisces. So again, there's some really beautiful sort of energy in terms of endings. There's been a new beginning with Venus moving into Aries, but she's now coming back to make sure that she has finished all the work she needs to do at the end of the wheel, and to make sure that everything is complete before we can welcome in the new. And of course, Mercury is going to follow suit, because Mercury will go into Aries as well. And then when Mercury stations retrograde towards the end of March, he is also going to go back into Pisces. So there is this real sort of, moving into the new, and then moving back, just to make sure that we have done everything that we need to do. Because when Neptune moves into 0 degrees of Aries at the end of March, again, this is a huge shift, and a really one that we are going to feel very, very strongly. And I'm sure lots of astrologers will be talking about the energy and the significance of Neptune in Aries. And of course, don't forget that Saturn is going to follow suit as well. So 0 degrees, 29 degrees of Pisces and 0 of Aries are really, really powerful points in the zodiac for all of this year, effectively. Okay, but let's just quickly talk about some of the galactic energies, because it's always really interesting to see how the cosmic bodies are showing up in the chart. And there's some really interesting sort of influences here. I just want to pause briefly to remind you to like the video if you're finding value in what I am sharing. Subscribe if you're not already done so. It doesn't cost you anything to do either. And if you do find value in my work, these videos are my passion. I absolutely love coming on and sharing the insight and the wisdom and everything that I am learning, but they do take a lot of time to plan, to film, to edit, create, and produce, and to upload and ultimately share. So if you're finding value in my content and you would like to make a contribution, I do have a super thanks button on here now. And I also have a PayPal address, which you can find in the description below. So thank you so much for your continued support. I really, really am grateful. Yeah. The sun and the moon are actually very close to a star called Scat, which is in Pisces, although in terms of the sky, it is at the right leg of the water bearer in the Aquarius constellation. So this is, it's in Aquarius, although it is at 8 degrees 52 minutes currently of Pisces. And this is a really interesting energy. It's not one that I am familiar with necessarily, but I always like to, if I can't see anything in the chart and it feels like an important event, I will go looking. That's the researcher in me. So Scat is basically the energy of wishes coming true and long-term success. When we're working with this star energy, there is a real strong theme of progress, because we are in the Aquarius, in the water bearer, but also vision. So combining those energies of Aquarius and Pisces together, having the faith, having the endurance, the tenacity, the perseverance to keep going, but also a real sense of wishes fulfilled. So that for me just is really beautiful. I'm thinking of, the 10 of Cups in tarot, that sort of dream come true, fulfillment of wishes type energy. And of course, the cups in tarot are water-based energies as well. So perhaps, this is the energy of the 10 of Cups coming through this new moon, but certainly it is offering us support and stability, because it is lying on the right leg of the water bearer. So, holding this energy up, but also really acknowledging that, we have come so far. And of course, when we get to Pisces in the chart, we have cycled the whole way around. We've done everything. We've got this wealth of experience to build on, to carry us forward. And with so much, sort of focus on this final sign in the zodiac at the time of this new moon. This is an acknowledgement that we have come on a very, very long journey. It has not been easy. It has required a huge amount of dedication, of work, of effort, but actually we can start to now see the fruits. We can see the wishes coming true, the dreams coming true. And, as part of that, we can actually just let go. We don't have to have attachment to the effort anymore. We can just surrender. We can almost like, it's just like, yeah, cutting that cord, starting to rise high, right, and rise above, letting the universe take over and take charge now because we have done the work. We've got to where we need to be, and now we can start to enjoy the fruits of all those efforts. And, it may not be what we were expecting it to be, but this is where we just have to let go of needing to understand, of having to have a plan. We have to trust that everything is in place, it's divinely timed, it's divinely orchestrated, and there is a real elegance coming through as well. So in terms of the other connections in the chart, we have Mercury is conjunct Markab in the Pegasus constellation. So we still have Neptune is conjunct Schiat in the Pegasus, obviously in the North Node is sitting between these two stars. So we have really strong Pegasus energy still, and this has been an ongoing theme in every lunation that I've talked about. Pegasus, of course, is the way shower, the pathfinder, giving us the ability to literally, reactivate our wings, to fly high, to see the bigger picture, to have that optimism, that faith, that understanding that, often we have to break free of the chains that have kept us fixed, bound, limited, restricted. And often we have not even been aware that we have had these chains attached, but now is the time to let go. And that is where we can step into that lightness of being that comes through Pegasus, the really strong multidimensionality, the ability to fly and to travel between dimensions, to go beyond the horizon and to have our sort of focus set on what it is that we want to bring in, because this is a really strong visionary energy. Pegasus also helps us to understand the purpose in suffering, which comes through in other star energies, not least the fact that Atlantis is very close to a crux. So again, there's a real sort of understanding that, yes, we may have trauma from past lives, from past experiences in other civilizations, but actually there is always purpose in the pain, in the suffering, and that is part of the path. We have to face challenge, we have to deal with trauma, with hardship, with heartache, with pain. That is part of the route and the path back home to becoming whole. So, again, Pisces can often be a victim, and that is the lower expression, but it is also very sacred. And there is a real understanding that, with Pisces, there is devotion to the sacred, to the divine, to the spiritual expression. And ultimately, that is what we are all heading back to. We're trying to reconnect to the sacred and the divine within us, because we know that is part of who we are. We may have become separated and divided from that. We may have gone through the veil of forgetfulness and, had to endure suffering of being here in the physical with that disconnection. But this is really feels like the start of our reconnection to our more spiritual, divine, and sacred aspects of the self. And through that, we are able to come into a much greater sense of wholeness and belonging and reconnection, coming home to the self, but effectively coming home to source. So that was quite a strong Piscean flow there. I'm very aware of that. So the sun and the moon in Pisces are in a square to Aldebaran and Antares, which are two of the royal stars. So this is kind of giving us this real sort of, I don't know, catalyst, tension, challenge. Are we ready to step into these more royal energies? Are we ready to step into the higher versions of ourselves? Aldebaran is Archangel Michael, Antares is Archangel Uriel. So this is very much about energy of the archangelic realms, protector, creative. Antares is a stargate. It's where we go when we're ready to move into a higher dimension, a higher frequency. So there is that opportunity should we choose. But we also have, this beautiful energy of Archangel Michael and his sword of protection, his divine guidance, slicing through the untruth, slicing through, anything that is holding us back. And of course, I've talked as well about the fact that Uranus has been very close to Capulus in Perseus for a number of months now, and will continue to be because the orb that we work with is 2 degrees. So Capulus is Perseus. This is the hero's journey. This is the ability to see something from a slightly different angle, to take on sort of treacherous behavior and tyranny, to sort of be the hero, to slay the dragon, slay the monster, to cut through illusion and cut through the chains that bind us to one state of being. So that is really, really powerful energy. But we also have the nodes, and so called the nodes now 27 degrees. So in an exact square to the galactic center. So again, this real sort of pull to, are you ready to connect with your cosmic self, a higher aspect of yourself, to connect with that homing signal that comes through the galactic center, pulling us back to source, pulling us back to the truth of who we are. Are we ready to see who we really are? This may be a challenge. Squares are not easy energies to navigate, but we have to face up to it. We have to see the truth of and sort of the grandiosity of who we are if we are to move forward, if we are to let go of what it is that we have outgrown and step into this higher version of ourselves through the North Node in Pisces. And of course, it's not just the galactic center that the nodes are squaring. There is Etemin in Draco constellation. There is Polaris in Canis Minor. There are the Orion stars, Safe and Betelgeuse or Betelgeuse. There's also a trine to Procyon in Canis Major and a trine to Alpha Centauri. So there's some really beautiful cosmic galactic frequencies coming through. Dragon energy, again, making sure that, we are ready to walk within the light and the dark, walk with the shadow, to integrate the two so that we can come into a more sort of empowered sense of wholeness. Polaris, the guiding star, the North Star, making sure that we are paying attention to those signs, those synchronicities, that symbolism, that sort of inner guide and outer guide that is always showing us the way, leading us forward, making sure that we do keep going, that we have this point of reference when we can almost see all that is, and that gives us this new beautiful perspective. Safe, again, the energy of the sword cutting through the shadow, but also acknowledging that shadow is part of our path back to wholeness. Betelgeuse for me is reminding us about the value of and the truth of regeneration, and the fact that everything is a cycle and we are constantly in this cycle. We will constantly come back to new versions of ourselves, constantly regenerate, reincarnate. The soul can never die, the light can never be put out. And again, that guiding light through Polaris, that truth of the eternal cycle through Betelgeuse, the cosmic homing signal through the galactic center is really, really beautiful. And the final galactic energy that I just want to talk about briefly is the fact that Saturn is now squaring what I've come to call as the cosmic trinity. So we have Nihal, we have Bellatrix, and we have Capella. Now, all of these 3 stars, although they are connected to or lie in different star systems, they share a very similar point in the chart in Gemini. So Nihal is in Lepus. This is the blue ray energy. This is very much about manifestation, magic, about using words and the power of words. This is Merlin energy. So again, very magical, ability to shape shift and to transmute lower energies and work with shadow and light. Bellatrix, very much linked to witchy energy, the power of words, the power of spells, the power of intention, but also, working with that duality and that separation consciousness that is very much associated with Orion. And then Capella in Auriga, the shepherd, the wise one, that frequency of home, that frequency of peace, a really strong guiding light. And with Capella is the chariot. So again, there is this sense, and this sort of ties back with what I was talking about just before, about someone else can now take charge. We don't have to keep slogging away. This is about just letting go and trusting that everything is falling into place. And with the charioteer, again, someone is taking the reins, or a higher power is taking the reins now. And we just have to surrender to the flow, to the cosmic currents, to the tides, and just be swept along, but knowing that we will be protected, we will be guided, and everything will work out for our greatest and highest good. So the square to Saturn here is about, this acknowledgement that with this new moon in Pisces, we have to rise above separation. We have to see that we're all connected. We have to come into unity consciousness and stand side by side, and really stand also side by side with source energy at the end of the day. So again, with the square, this is something that is going to challenge us, perhaps, challenge many of us if we're not quite ready to embark on this journey, but it is non-negotiable. It cannot be ignored. It has to be sort of faced head on. So that is a really beautiful sort of cosmic trinity energy working together. They are separate, but again, they are working with very similar themes, moving us from separation into unity through the Gemini into Pisces square aspect. So I hope you've enjoyed being able to follow what I've shared. I am aware increasingly that there is some channeled information comes through, as well as what I have prepared and what I plan to say. So yeah, I hope that you're resonating with what is coming through, and that there are some messages that are helping you to move forward and helping you to have a bigger understanding of what is going on, because I just cannot get away from the fact that we are moving through the most incredible times, but also some of the most challenging energetically. So it just, I think, is so beautiful to be able to do this work, to offer these insights, and to know, when I read the comments and what people are sharing, that everybody, or so many of us, are actually experiencing similar challenges and similar experiences and similar energy. So we are all walking together, even if we are, separated geographically. There's a really strong energy sort of bringing us all together, which is ultimately what the Pisces new moon is all about. So really, really powerful times. If you are not already on my mailing list, I invite you to sign up for that. I will have at least one newsletter that goes out per month. That will be on the last day of each month. And I'm hoping to start maybe introducing a second newsletter mid-month. We'll see how we go and how timing allows. But yeah, please join that. You can sign up for that on my website. There's also information about the services that I offer. If you want to do a deep dive on, say, how this moon is working in your chart, or on a specific astrological alignment or energy that you are interested in, then I can offer shorter, more deep, in-depth readings, but also the quantum soul guidance, the galactic astrology, the energy work. There is quite a lot to choose from. So I invite you to have a look at that, and I will be back soon. Thank you so much.